Welcome to Leadership and Life Chat with your hosts, me, James Lay.
And me, Mark Curtis. In each episode, we'll be illustrating how success in leadership is inextricably linked with success in life.
Whether it's leadership in business, society, family or friends, we're all leaders.
Using our experiences and a range of expert guests, we'll share secrets to boosting your health, wealth and self.
So let's get on with the show.
In today's show, we're thrilled to welcome back an old friend of the show, Freddie Bennett. Now, Freddie previously joined us back in April 2021 for episode 42 of Impromptu Business Chat, where he shared his personal story and left us with the really key message that everyday people can do extraordinary things. Now, the episode was so popular that we thought we should get Freddie back on the show. Freddie continues to do extraordinary things. His own podcast, Over the Influence, has gone from strength to strength and gained a massive international following. Freddie had a big personal change as he left the UK and moved all the way to the other side of the world to New Zealand. And during that time, he also released his first book, Starting at Zero, a guide to making your dreams come true, which is truly a story of transformation. And that's why we've got Freddie back on the show, because we really want to talk to him about the book and the lessons that we can share with others from that. So, Freddie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, as you say, a lot has changed since we last spoke. But when you both gave me the opportunity to come back on the show, even though I'm a little bit further away from the UK than I used to be, I could definitely never say no. It was an offer that I could not refuse.
It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's very, very kind of you, Freddie. So before we dive into the book, what else has been going on? What have we missed off the list of what you've actually been up to?
So last time we spoke, I was, as many of us were, in the UK, lockdown, not going very far, very quickly. But as we've talked about, and as any new listeners will discover, I like stepping out of my comfort zone. So when a opportunity came up to move 12,000 miles from the UK to New Zealand in the middle of a COVID lockdown, I thought, well, why not step outside the comfort zone and see what happens? So that's what I did. It was March 2021. I left the UK. So right in the middle of lockdown 2 or lockdown 3, who can remember? But yes, we packed our bags, packed up the house, flew the family out to New Zealand, and we've been here ever since, in another COVID lockdown in many ways. But there's been lots of changes on the personal side, lots of changes on the fitness and adventure side as well. So I'm very looking forward to diving into the detail with you both. But ultimately, it's all about changing. It's all about progress in our lives and dealing with unforeseen circumstances.
So are you in New Zealand on a permanent basis now? Is it there? You've obviously been over there for well over a year. So
we never say never, and the family's been out here for almost a year and a half now. It's been an interesting experience because I'm one of the few people that has experienced a full COVID lockdown in 2 countries now. So that's a claim to fame I never thought I'd have. Like I say, the country's great, the family's great. There are, without getting political on this show, there are certainly marked differences politically and economically between New Zealand and the UK. But for now, I say that the family's really settled, so we're loving it. One of my ultimate goals is to build my career, my business, my life into a position where I could be spending 9 months of the year in New Zealand, the UK summer holidays in the UK. Enjoying the hopefully warm weather, and I think that would be a great way to live. So hopefully that full-on digital nomad lifestyle with a foot on either side of the world.
Sounds fantastic. It sounds great. So what are you doing in New Zealand then?
So I'm doing a couple of things here in New Zealand. Firstly, I've started a new business which is going back to my roots. So one of the things that I've been passionate about for the last 15 years now is helping companies be more successful. A long time ago, someone gave me the nickname of the profit hunter. So what I do now is I go into businesses and I help them make more profits. And the way I do this is by tapping into things like their customer databases to help them discover and extract hidden sources of revenue and profit that, to be honest with you, business owners know are sitting there, but they don't have the time or the expertise to do it because they're too busy running a business. So I partner with businesses, I go in there, I identify hidden profits in their customer databases, their processes, and various different areas. And we pull out the profits and then deliver it to the business owner's table. Start a new podcast, trying to learn how to surf, entering ultra marathons, helping my kids adjust to a new lifestyle. So it's been certainly a busy time, but really rewarding as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And James and I are completely with you on the helping businesses unlock profitability. I think to coin the old phrase, working smarter, not harder, and most people just try and run quicker and quicker with diminishing returns. So yeah, brilliant. That's great. Love to talk to you about that separately as well, Freddie. That would be fantastic.
Because it does link back to everything we've talked about around resilience, burnout, mental health, focus, all these different things, because we know, and I know the both of you know, with the great work that you do with businesses, it can be tough being a business owner, and it's tough usually, especially with the backdrop of coming out of COVID, global recession, inflation. It can be a very stressful time trying to run, let alone grow a business. So I think if I can go in there, help business owners to make more money and put more profit on the table just by taking pressure and tasks off of them, then not only am I helping businesses and business owners to be more successful, but it's still doing my bit to help them from a stress and a mental health point of view as well.
And one question before we get started. I think when we spoke last time, Freddie, you were incredibly disappointed because you were about to run an Arctic marathon, which had got cancelled because of COVID. Did you ever get the chance to do that, or is it still on the list?
I didn't. It's still on the list. So I'll try and cut a long story short. So yes, it was running across the North Pole. It got cancelled thanks to COVID. It was happening, but then the way life goes sometimes, the next year, the race was happening, but I was due to fly to New Zealand. It would have been about a 36-hour turnaround from coming back from the North Pole to then flying the whole family out to New Zealand. So firstly, there was a risk of getting COVID because if I tested positive back in those days, I wouldn't have been allowed to get on a plane. Secondly, when I suggested to my wife in that final week of us packing up our whole life before moving halfway around the world, if she was okay with me running an ultramarathon in the North Pole, funnily enough, she wasn't that keen on that idea. So there's many. I think this is how we grow and develop, because the Freddie 5 years ago would have said, I don't care, I'm making this happen and I'm going to go and do it. But now as we mature, shall we say, because I'm 40 now, guys, since we last spoke, I hit the big 40. Now it is about choosing your battles, and you think, and without making my marriage sound like a war zone, it is about saying, is it losing a certain battle to win the war, and thinking about what's going to be best for our family and our long-term goals. So that means that race is still on the list. And again, I hope I can be back in Europe soon and swapping the beach for the snow and getting that one ticked off the list.
And Mark is still in training for you're going to row across the Atlantic, and I think Mark was going to join you on that one. So I don't know whether you've done it yet, but Mark is waiting for the call. So
that's perfect, man. That one is still happening, and the best news is as well, since we last spoke, the race organisers of that race, very conveniently, they've actually set up a Pacific race as well, which is nearer to me. I think it's something like Hawaii to California. So that's going to make it even easier for us, Mark. So I don't know whether you fancy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we can meet up in Hawaii, have some
Those waters will be even more shark infested, I'd imagine, Mark. So that'd be
I think so.
And you love a flight, don't you? So
I love flying.
Flight over to Hawaii.
Sharks. Yeah, I mean, you're just talking my language here, James.
I'm a little bit smaller than you guys, so I could be like the Cox, the one that doesn't do anything apart from just tell you which direction to go. Straight ahead, boys.
You could be what, James?
Let's not go there, Mark.
No comment. Do you know what? Talking about rowing, I have got a slightly funny story just very quickly. Used to know a guy who he rowed I think it was in the Coxless Fours for South Africa, and was in their selection. Didn't qualify for the Olympics, but he was part of the squad. And anyway, moved over to the UK, and we used to cycle together with a group of us. And one day, one of the groups said, "Oh, did you know Dave rode for New Zealand?" And one of the other group members said, "What did he ride?" No, he rode for South Africa. Yeah, what did he ride? And this kept going around in circles until we actually pointed out, no, it was a boat. He wasn't on a bike. It was rode, not rided, or whatever the word. Yeah. Anyway, we'll carry on with the show, shall we, James?
Yeah. Thanks,
So Freddie, we've both read your book, thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you. And for those who did listen to episode 42, you very much tell the story of your journey, which you shared kindly with us on our podcast through the book. So I think if anyone really wants to get into that story, then have a listen to episode 42 of our podcast,
or buy the book,
or read the book. Yeah, and definitely buy the book. But I think what I really want to focus into and get out of today, if we could, Freddie, is not necessarily the story, but some of the real key learning points which I took out of your book, and which I think our listeners would find really valuable in terms of maybe shaping their own journeys as well. So if that's okay with you, perhaps that's the way we could go today.
Definitely.
Okay, great. So as I say, great book. The first thing, Freddie, which really kind of resonated with me and jumped out at me, and I loved as a headline, was the chapter where you're talking about comfort zone versus conquer zone. And I'm not going to even try and do it any sort of injustice. I'm going to throw it over to you so you can kind of share with the listeners sort of how you got to that conclusion and what that really means in practical terms for day-to-day life.
Happy to, Mark. And the comfort zone versus the conquer zone, in a way, it's a great place to start, because that summarizes a lot of the themes of the book. So starting at zero, I'll start that again without the frog in my throat. Excuse me. Starting at zero was a book that I felt that I had to write, because I believed there were so many people out there like myself who were struggling in life, who had so many goals and hopes and dreams and ambitions, and they wanted to make these things happen. But then life gets in the way, pandemics happen, families change, jobs change, and we always still tell ourselves that I will make those dreams come true just after the next job or the next promotion or the next house or the next car or the next child or the next birthday or whatever it is. And we find ourselves in these comfort zones that we've constructed. And one of the things I say in the book is that I think the comfort zone gets a really hard time, because anyone that reads the media, that looks on Instagram, that reads on LinkedIn, it's all about smashing your comfort zone and breaking your comfort zone and escaping your comfort zone. And I was thinking, what's the comfort zone ever done to us to deserve being smashed and escaped from, and something that's a bad thing? Because the comfort zone was just designed to keep us safe for tens of thousands of years. As humans, we wanted nothing more than to create a literal zone of comfort around ourselves, because that helps us to keep safe and keep our families safe. But then something happened in society it was around the full invention and adoption of the internet, when people started to realize there's literally a whole big world out there of things that they can go and get and go and achieve. And they started to get more of a global perspective. And that is when a comfort zone went from being something that was loved and adored and embraced to being something that should be escaped. So that was my first point of thinking, why is a comfort zone so bad? But then as humans, we're all told, especially in the Western world, that you can't relax in your comfort zone, especially in the professional environment. Imagine going into work and saying, well, I'm very happy in my comfort zone, thank you very much. I'm just going to chill out here for a couple of years. I'm having a great time. That wouldn't fly in so many professional environments. And so we're always told to escape this horrible place that's comfortable and keeping us safe and happy and healthy and warm. And we only have to look around the world right now to understand that a lot of people don't have that. But we're told that we're not allowed to have this comfort. And I was thinking, well, if I'm being told to escape the comfort zone, where am I supposed to be going? Because it's all very well saying that you're going to leave somewhere, like in any relationship, it's all very well to say I'm leaving, but then where are you going next? And that's when I wanted to create this concept of actually the conquer zone. So it's a different zone that you move into. And another area about the comfort zone is we're told to leave and never go back again. Again, it's like leaving home when you're 18 years old or however old you are, and leave and don't come back. Well, that's not the case, because we always wanted to go back to this place that's homely and comfortable, and again, is familiar and keeps us safe. So I believe that there should be two concepts, the comfort zone and the conquer zone, and we should be able to almost commute within the two, because you can't have one without the other. There have to be times of conquer, when we have to step into that conquer zone and do things that test us, that test our minds and our bodies, where we can prove to ourselves that we are capable of doing great things. I believe we are all capable of doing great things, because that is how we achieve those goals and ambitions, be they in sport, fitness, business, finance, hobbies, family, relationships, whatever those things may be. We all have those goals we want to achieve. We have to go into the conquer zone to do them. But then when the time is right, we must go back to the comfort zone to relax, to repair, to recover, to enjoy a more holistic lifestyle, to be grateful for what we have. And that's why I believe with so many things, and maybe in so many ways of society and social media at the moment, it shouldn't just be polarized. It shouldn't just be black and white, that comfort is bad, something else is good. It's about saying we have the world of comfort, we have the world of conquering our goals and ambitions, but we have to have a mix, as with so many things. It has to be everything in moderation, because that's how you find the balance, and that balance then ultimately leads us to the success that we desire.
Where are you at the moment, Freddie, on that balance? What sort of proportion of time do you think you're currently spending in the conquer zone compared to the comfort zone?
That's a great question, and I've been thinking about that a lot. And as we were saying before we came on this, and this is why this conversation is so powerful, because in the time that we last spoke, I was the guy who just ran through the desert. I had the Guinness World Records. I was saying, yes, guys, I'm going to be conquering the Arctic, and me and Mark will then be conquering the Atlantic, and we're going to be doing all these big conquer zone activities. I can see, Mark, how excited you are about the sharks and the flights and everything else. And I talk about conquering all these goals. But then life changed, and then COVID carried on. Then the opportunity came up for me to conquer something that I didn't even know that was going to happen, which was moving literally halfway around the world to a country. I won't bore you with the whole family story, but we had no family here. We've never been to New Zealand before. It's not like we've got a nice auntie who's welcomed us. We moved across, never been here, no connections, no network. I wasn't coming to a job. I was coming to change my business approach. So it was a different type of conquer zone. And in that time, it's been different stresses, different challenges, different mental and physical upheavals. But where am I at the moment? I'm probably put slightly more in the comfort zone than the conquer zone. But for a while, I was beating myself up about that, because I wrote a book. I was the guy that ran across a desert, and I became the guy that was doing the school run, because my wife is a doctor, so she does a very important job at a children's hospital. I got Guinness World Records at the world's fastest fisherman, and then I was rushing home to do the fish fingers for the kids and things like that. So it was a different challenge, and it's easy to beat yourself up, but then I realised that so many things in our life happen in seasons. We may be approaching the spring in our business, where we're seeing lots of growth and lots of development. We may be going through a winter period in terms of our fitness. We may be going through a summer in terms of our relationship. We may be going through a winter or an autumn in terms of our adventurous challenges. So these things all do go in peaks and troughs, which I think is a powerful thing, and much better than the stereotypical hustle, go hard, leave your comfort zone, smash it, beat it up 24/7, sleep when you're dead culture that is sometimes portrayed across the media.
And it goes back to what you were saying on the previous podcast, which was lots of the lessons that you've learned through the challenges that you've done have value in life generally. And you were saying previously, you don't have to go and run Marathon des Sables to in order to realize your dreams. It could be, it could be moving to New Zealand. It could be doing the school runs, all these sorts of things. You can apply these concepts in different ways, can't you? So I'm sure you're getting lots of value out of the experience that you've done in that move, which for many people, that in itself would be sort of a conquer zone area, which people might retreat then into a comfort zone for years thereafter. So
the move happened very, very quickly when we were in the UK, and you're going through this like a panicked. You have to empty a house and ship it and send it and do all the logistical things. And so many people said to us, "Oh, I'd love to do what you're doing, but I could never do that. I'd love to go and live in a different country, but I couldn't do that." And I think it's a great point that you make, James. And as I said in the last time, yes, I've done some extreme things. I would much prefer it if people wanted to do some non-extreme things with their goals and dreams. But so many people want to live in a different country, to maybe start a business, or to take a business or a job in a different direction. We all have these things that we're saying, "Oh, I'd love to do that, but surely I couldn't do that." And that's part of my mission, to help people understand that no matter what your goal, and that's something that Starting at Zero is so focused on, no matter what it is you want to do, you can have the tools, the tactics, and the motivation to make it happen.
The other thing I took out from what you were saying there, Freddie, it comes back to, I think it was Winston Churchill who said something along the lines of, planning is important, but plans are a waste of time. And what you were saying there is it's about the flexibility and adaptability of us as humans as well. So, most goals are not A to B. It's not a straight line. It goes all over the place. And actually you have to be adaptive and change as the circumstances present themselves. So you had less control over what was going on with COVID and the Arctic race, but then suddenly another opportunity presented itself with the potential move to New Zealand. So you were adaptive, you changed you realigned your goals, you set a plan, but you were just adaptive, and I think that's just a really important message as well to people, isn't it? Which is, just because one thing doesn't come off, it's no good stamping your feet and letting your bottom lip kind of drag along for a little while. You just go, okay, that one's not happening. What else is here? What other opportunities are presenting themselves at this point?
Exactly.
Which part of New Zealand are you in, Freddie?
So I'm in the North Island, in a place called the Bay of Plenty, which is very plentiful, and it's a New Zealand that you don't imagine. I mean, so it's a tough move. So it is a massive change for any family. But when I know I can get up tomorrow morning, when it'll be Saturday morning for me, and run half an hour, and I can watch the sunrise across the Pacific Ocean and know that I'm one of the first people in the whole world to watch the sunrise on that day. Nothing gets too much better than that. But I think as you were saying as well, Mark, that it's unexpected changes. And one thing personally that was really tough for all of us was that we left the UK in lockdown. It was kind of, we have to go through the COVID history, but, we had everyone seeing the family for Christmas, and then the whole country went back into lockdown again, which meant that we couldn't say goodbye to our families. So we couldn't, you can't visit your parents, you can't hug them, you can't say goodbye, because if we'd got COVID the week before or the couple of weeks before we flew, then we wouldn't be able to travel and we'd be breaking the rules. So hadn't said goodbye properly to any of the family. We then get to New Zealand, massive change. We have a couple of weeks of craziness where the country is normal, no masks, no nothing. But then I think it was Delta, one of the strains hit the country. We went into full lockdown just as the UK was opening up, kind of like last summertime. So I was there. We've gone through the move, and I say it's okay, because the first thing I did when I arrived in New Zealand was I booked a load of ultra marathons and adventure races, because everyone says, New Zealand, Freddie, the adventurer, that's right up your street. I booked everything up. COVID hits, everything gets cancelled. Kids are back into homeschooling. It goes right back as if you're in, April 2020 back in the UK. And I'm here in New Zealand watching all my friends and family going out, meeting up, restaurants, festivals, theatres without me. And it's very easy to get down on yourself then and say, what have I done? The change is too difficult. The challenge is too tall. That I can't overcome all these changes. But as we talk about in the book and in so many other areas, there is always a way if we're prepared to adapt our approach and change our mindset.
So we mentioned the book. I've got a copy of it here. Hang on, just let me show it to the camera for those that are watching on YouTube. So the book is there. Recommend listeners buying that and reading that, Freddie. One of the concepts in there was around dreams, not dares. Do you want to sort of explain to the listeners your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because I think dreams, not dares is a difficult one because we all have different dreams. And when I talk about dreams, I mean, we all have different goals and different things that we want to achieve. But it is about having the right dream, because for even myself, for so many years, I knew, or at least I thought I knew the things I wanted to do because I was listening to family members, to people who were my friends who had gone on to different careers, to my boss, to other people. And it's very easy, especially I believe in the current day and age, to tell ourselves that this is what I want to do. This is my dream. I'm going to go and make it happen. But we tell ourselves this story, but really the truth is we're doing things because we're allowing other people to put those thoughts inside us. I see this a lot in the professional world. I say especially with my wife being a doctor. I meet a lot of doctors who deep down they hate being a doctor, and I'm not being against doctors. I'm sure there's people in lots of many different professions, be they doctors, lawyers, dare I say even accountants. I don't see how anyone can not love being an accountant, but there may be a few people there that their parents have said, you should be an accountant, be an accountant. I think life is too short to be living someone else's dream, which I think is something that we all kind of pay lip service to. But it takes a lot of bravery to actually step forward and say, even though the whole world is telling me, oh, you want to do this, or you should be doing that. Or one of the favourite ones that I've had as well is parents or partners or family members say, oh, but you can't do that because in our family, we're not good business people. In our family, we're all overweight, so you can't do a marathon. Oh, in our family, we all get divorced, so don't bother getting into a relationship. I come from I come from a long line of alcoholics, so that's going to happen to you. Everyone just puts all their past hang-ups and their history onto us as individuals, and it takes a lot of strength to walk our own path. And with the dares part of it as well, it is about saying, some people want to do some quite daring type things. And when I say daring, I don't mean necessarily extreme adventures. It may be, say, the dare activity of starting a business or moving to a different country, or even starting a new relationship or something like that, or a new job. If people are genuinely going to follow that dream, it's about how can they create the environment and the conditions to make it as successful as possible. We all love the motivational videos around burn the boats, don't have a plan B, and it all sounds really wonderful in Hollywood movies. But I've been there many years ago, and I was fired up, and I was like, yes, burn the boats, take the leap of faith, believe, achieve, and dream, and it all sounds really good fun until you're lying awake one night thinking, how the hell am I going to pay the mortgage this month? And then you wish you hadn't burnt maybe all of the boats and you'd kept a life raft or two. So I'm absolutely saying, follow your dream, make sure it's your dream, but for goodness sake, think about it. Use the planning techniques and the methods and the tools that I use in starting at zero, so it isn't a blind leap of faith. So you're giving yourself a safety net and you're giving yourself the best chances of success.
Yeah, that's just a great point, Freddie. I I'm with you. I've read things. I've heard people say, if you have a plan B, it means you won't focus on your plan A, and therefore you're not fully committed. I think if you're completely gung ho, fair enough. But for most average human beings, having a safety net gives them the confidence to do the former part to the best of their ability because they feel a little bit safer. So I'm with you completely. Don't burn all your boats. I love that point. That's fantastic.
I think it's an interesting one as well because I think there's something happens in our mindset, and I've experienced this as well. And when we do burn the boat, and this might be in terms of launching into a business venture or saying, I'm going to go from couch to ultra marathon or anything that's a very bold, maybe slightly brash move. I think our minds change, and I believe we go more naturally into survival mode. And if we go into survival mode, then we naturally, based on our evolutionary history, we don't think about long-term plans. We think about grasping whatever straw we can find that allows our survival, which means, again, in business, we may make the wrong move from a short-term sense just to try and get some short-term cash because we're worried about cash. If you've made a big, bold move to, as I say, go from couch to marathon or couch to ultra marathon, you may be tempted to overtrain. You may be tempted to do something silly with your diet and nutrition to lose a lot of weight very quickly. So as I say, even though these things sound very glamorous and very romantic, they can lead to potentially a very short-term thinking, which isn't always conducive to long-term success.
Absolutely. And it's a bit like if I go out on my racer, if I'm going to go and do a 100-mile sportif on my racer, if I said to people, right, I'm not going to take any spare inner tubes with me or a pump, people would go, you're nuts. What are you doing that for? So that's my plan B. My plan A is I have a tire, I have an inner tube within it. But my plan B is I have a spare inner tube and a pump in my back pocket, So I think, if you kind of put it into that context, people would think you'd be crazy to not have a plan B. So that's why, I love the examples that you're chucking out there as well. So Freddie, the area I'd like to go to next with the book, and this is the reason I want to go here is because when I was reading it, the amount of times people say, oh, when you get older, time just goes so quickly. I don't know where 1 week goes. And retired people are like, I don't know how I ever found time to do any work. I just don't know where the days go. So, Freddie, would you like to explain to us why that happens?
Yes, absolutely. I think Stephen Hawking will be turning in his grave because this is Freddie Bennett's theory of the relativity of time, which isn't quite as intelligent or as in depth as his. But you're absolutely right, Mark. And time is a funny one, and that's really one of the underlying themes of the whole book. And say with Starting at Zero, it's not a book about running. It's not even a book about what I did on my adventures. Time is one of the key things because obviously with what started my journey from being a depressed, unfit, overweight, addicted mid-manager guy in his early 30s to the ultramarathon victories and the Sahara Desert and the world records, it was actually time. And for me, it's never been about running or fitness, particularly, certainly as a whole. But it's about time because it was the sudden death of my dad a few years ago now. That they gave me the crash course in the importance of time, and I would sit there as many people in that funny age between 30 and 40 when so many big changes generally happen in our lives, and we go from these people who think we've got all the time in the world to all of a sudden you're saying we're halfway through 2022. Literally, what happened? Where did that time go? Because we had all those New Year's resolutions at the start of 2022, and this was going to be the year. This was going to be the time we make something happen. This was going to be, we're going to come out of COVID. We've got the goals and the dreams and the ambitions. This is it. And now, as we're talking here now, it's July 2022. We're going to be looking at Christmas trees before we know it. Why does time go so quickly? And we all think that stuff just happens, but there's actually a couple of key reasons. One, it's true that time does feel like it's going quicker as we get older. So if you take a 5-year-old child, for example, and a 50-year-old person, a 5-year-old child, a year is 20% of their life, and which is why it feels like a lot longer. So that's why, as a 5-year-old child, they will be saying, it feels like ages since Father Christmas just came to visit. And it does feel like ages because they've been waiting 20% of their life between Christmases. When you get to 50 years old, then a year is a much smaller percentage of your life, which is why it's going even quicker and even quicker. And this is why I'm speaking with two accountants and desperately trying to work out the percentages in my head.
2%. 2%.
2%, that's it, with it being 10 o'clock on a Friday night. But that's it feels like 2. And that's why the time does feel quicker, because effectively, the more years we add onto the clock, then the smaller the percentages are. So all of a sudden, if you're waiting 2% of your life for an event to come round, that's why it does feel quicker rather than waiting 20%. And another reason why
Mark is close.
Sorry, James, you carry on.
I was going to say Mark is closer to that 2%, aren't you, Mark, than the rest of us? But
I am. Well, let's just say we're all in the 40s club here, shall we?
Yeah, okay.
We are. It's the best place to be.
You're not in your 50s, are you, Lizzie?
You're in your 20s, aren't you, Lizzie?
Yeah, she wishes.
So I'm here all night, guys. That's what I'm here for. But I think that there is that the concept of time as well, and the time is like a movie. And again, if you're watching the same movie every single day, then it just starts to go by in a bit of a blur, and you don't pay attention. And say if anyone who watches a Netflix series, unless it's something really gripping, it just kind of passes you by. Studies have shown, as individuals, when we get older, unless we are seeking out new experiences, if the time passes us by in exactly the same way every single day, then time moves as a blur. And this was a key thing that I learned when I was researching the book. When we say time passes in a blur, we always automatically think that it's kind of like it looks blurry, like it's blurry around the edges because we can't see, or we just don't really know what happens. But the truth is, it's passing as a blur because time is speeding up. And again, it's the equivalent of if you're commuting back when people used to commute to work. If you do the same journey every single day, you kind of switch off. And unless a new event happens that really wakes you up and makes you remember that event, then it will just pass in a blur, and it will go on fast forward day after day, day after day, which is why it's so important, not only for our physical health, but also for our mental health, and also for us to make the most of the time of our lives, is for us to seek out new events, new experiences. And if you're able to do that, then it's almost like putting a marker or a bookmark in the timeline of your life. The more new experiences you can seek out and gain, they'll act like little waypoints in our journey, and that means that time does slow down, which is a great argument for us seeking out as much variety as possible.
One of the things that we've done on workshops in the past is, particularly if they're internal workshops on locations that people are familiar with, is we'll encourage them to take a different route in to the office or the location that day. It doesn't. These changes often don't need to be that significant.
No.
But just taking a different mode of transport in, or taking a different route in, parking in a different spot, different walk, whatever it might be, that can really jog ourselves, and then as a great way of leading into on a workshop, it just gives a different alertness to our lives, I think, a different perception, and so I love that point. Tell me about regret and remorse.
I'm glad you asked, James, and this is where it's really exciting. Regret and remorse are really two different things, and what I try and do in the book is really dispel a few myths and also a few of the phrases, the empty motivational phrases that everyone bands around, and we all tell ourselves. We all put the poster up on the wall, say no one wants to live a life of regret, and I don't want any regrets, and all those sorts of things. But again, it's one of those really intriguing topics, as I was on my own journey as the guy who says, I don't want to regret anything in life, which was actually me giving myself a free pass to act recklessly, because it was all about, hey, no regrets, right? And then doing some incredibly stupid things in many areas. So it's about really exploring what regret is to us as humans, and then also looking at the whole concept of remorse as well. So to give a couple of examples, if I'm watching a terrible event on the news, I might feel regret for the people that are involved in that, but it's a situation that I can't immediately go into and fix and control. If I do something bad, let's say I accidentally break my my child's Harry Potter Lego castle that he's been building for months, and I accidentally hit it with a vacuum cleaner or something, and I'll say, oh, I really regret doing that, but actually I'm feeling remorse because I've done something, whether consciously or unconsciously. I've done something and I feel bad about it, and it's that feeling of remorse that tells me, I've made a mistake there, effectively. But it's about helping people to understand that they always say that we want to move through life with no regrets, but actually regret is something that we can't control. Or to put it another way, regret is something that we can choose whether to feel or not in our lives. So when people always say, it's all about no regrets, right? I am gonna quit the job and move to Bali to be a coral farmer. No regret. Actually, it's saying, well, is that something that is the right thing to do for you at the time? Are you doing it for the right reasons, or are you just telling yourself a story because you don't want to be able to regret anything in life? And the really funny thing about regret, I'd spent a lot of time reading. A lot of work has been done on this in the US as well, in terms about the whole concept of regret. Another book by Bronnie Ware, the top 5 regrets of the dying, where she spoke to people who were suffering, or she was speaking to people who were going through end of life care, who were suffering from terminal diseases. And she was asking them, well, what are your regrets in life? And by really digging deeper into this subject, actually, we have very few regrets. The main regret that we have is not living a life true to ourselves. But when we start saying, I'm going to have the 5th tequila at the work party because it's all about having no regrets, some of those short-term actions that we do can actually lead to more long-term regrets because we're doing them for the wrong reasons. So a lot of this is about helping people to understand the difference between regret and remorse. And the key message is to stop giving ourselves such a bloody hard time, because we all do these things. We can, whether we try and make the right decision and go in one direction, or we try and take our lives in a different direction. And we're so fearful of doing the wrong thing and then being remorseful about it, or letting people down is another key one, or letting myself down, or doing something which means my parents won't be proud of me or my partner won't be proud of me. We're all carrying this baggage of remorse on our shoulders because we're just telling ourselves a story that I can't have any regrets. So again, one of the key messages is to give yourself a break. None of us are perfect, but it is this endless pursuit of perfection that does actually end us feeling remorseful and then actually wasting more time in our lives that we could be spending having more fun, doing more rewarding, holistic activities, and effectively having the time of our lives.
And that pursuit of sometimes the choice we have, is it longer term happiness that we're striving for, or is it shorter term gratification? And sometimes we can apply that, no regrets, but it's actually a short-term gratification that you're seeking, like that extra beer or whatever it might be. And I like that.
I think it's part of that, especially in the professional sense. I speak to, because I know to bring it to a real life example, we know in a professional capacity at the moment, there's they call it the Great Resignation, which is mainly mainly happening in the US. I know it's catched on in the UK, certainly in Australia as well. COVID made a lot of people have a long, hard look at their lives and thinking about, I don't do that. I was in that position. I was doing a commute from Liverpool to Manchester every day, and thinking, is that how I want to spend the rest of my life? Paying £500 a month to be crammed into a commuter train to go to a role that didn't allow me to be at my best, that didn't allow me to have the massive impact that I wanted to have on businesses. Lots of people are looking at the towns they live to say that whether to start the business or however. And it's really giving people opportunities to take that long, hard look and say, what is it that I want to do with my life? And say whether these changes are big or small, but it is about helping people to understand that it doesn't have to be about escaping or avoiding regret, but it's about doing and making these changes in the right way.
Yeah, and I love that, because I read a thing years ago where it said something like, I don't know, it was a recruitment agency sponsored questionnaire, and it was something like 2/3 of people who left a job moved on again within like a couple of years, because effectively they'd left the job for the wrong reasons. They hadn't been honest with themselves. They probably lacked self-awareness. They were blaming others, and the thing is, you can't outrun yourself, can you? You tend to follow yourself wherever you go, and regrets, remorse, whatever it is, it follows you around. So having those honest conversations with yourself and being brutally honest with yourself at times can very often lead to better decision making and better choice making.
And it's a really difficult thing to do. And I think especially in the world of work, I've probably been in this position. If I know I've been in this position myself, I know a lot of other people are. And let's say they go for a job interview, and I'm happy to make it about my personal experience. Again, I was in an industry where I wasn't able to have as I say, the massive impact that I wanted on my clients' businesses and on their lives. I was wanting to, as I say, to leave that industry. A job opportunity comes up in the same industry. So I'm at home saying to my wife every night, like, I know I can do more. I know I can do better. I know I can do bigger. I have to escape. I have these big, bold dreams. A job interview comes up. They then tell me the salary. And you say, well, actually, I don't mind it. Yeah, I actually think this place has got some potential. I really think this industry, I think it's going to be going. You know what? I think I'm actually in the right place here. And then because the pound signs or the dollar signs come up in your eye, and you're absolutely right, Mark. Within 6 months, in fact, probably within 6 days, if I'm honest with myself, I knew I'd made the wrong decision and I moved for the wrong reason. But it's back to comfort. I had that comfortable life. I wanted even more comfort. In that stage of my life, this was before the Sahara Desert and everything else. I was seeking greater and greater. I was looking to build my palace of comfort, and rather than thinking about long-term purpose, mission, passion, fulfillment, I was thinking about granite worktops and holidays in the Maldives, which I'd be able to get. And I think you're right. It's about really focusing on what is going to give us that happiness for our long-term future, not just a short-term comfort-based fix.
So, Freddie, moving on to another area of the book, and I really like this section because it's very visual, and I like a visual stimulation. And the thing I'd like you to perhaps share with the audience is the podium method. So I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm going to leave you to run with that one.
Sure. So the podium method is an interesting one, and again, it's about taking a real world view of all of the goals that we're trying to achieve. And this one really came to the forefront when I was trying to do the crazy attempt of running across the Sahara Desert, but it could apply to any aspect of our life. I knew, I wasn't a very self-aware guy a few years ago. You could probably argue that I'm still not, but I knew that if I just set myself a dogged aim of finish the race, do something, just get from A to B, then it wouldn't be enough for me. And again, I listened to the podcasts, I got my fill of Robbins and Goggins, and I felt the fear and did it anyway, and did all these different things. And they were all talking about, just positive thinking, positive mantras, visualization. And I was like, I get that. But I've also had times in my life when I've done all the positive visualization and I've written all the positive phrases, I've done the meditation, I've done everything right, and stuff has still gone pretty badly wrong. So I thought, since I'm not a Californian billionaire, I'm a middle-aged, unfit English guy trying to get across the Sahara Desert. Again, being realistic, some stuff might go down that I'm not too happy with. So how can I actually visualize all of that? And with the way it links into the podium approach is a really understanding that there is more than one way to win. It's effectively saying you've got your bronze, silver, and gold approach. So to break this down, again, in the desert sense, I knew, if I had a goal of just finishing the race in a certain position, it was very black and white. It was very binary, very yes or no, which meant that I could, if I hit that goal, I'd be happy. But if I didn't hit it, I'd be unhappy. And another example of this, it's where you see it a lot with children. Like if your child's playing football or a sport and the team wins, and the child walks off, and you do the whole happy parent, and you're like, well done, brilliant, I'm so proud of you. And the child looks like you've just squashed their birthday cake, and they say, yeah, but I didn't score a goal, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. And in our brains, we can't make that work. So we say, hang on, you've got a really great event, that you've got a brilliant achievement that you've just done here, but you're looking like someone's just weeds on your fireworks. And why is that? And that's why I created the podium methods. It was really understanding that maybe I wasn't going to hit my timing goal in the race, or maybe I wasn't going to finish the race, which at that time was a huge risk for me, because I'd never done anything like this before. And I certainly wasn't, I wasn't a runner, I wasn't fit enough, and so on. So I thought, how can I almost have an insurance policy for my sense of achievement, for my confidence, for my mental health, which means if I don't necessarily finish on top of the podium, if I don't achieve my gold goal, I still get the silver, which is maybe, didn't complete the race, but had a great time, or had a great experience, or got to see the Sahara Desert. Maybe I finished the race, but I come last, or something like that. Having these different levels of goals, the bronze, silver, and gold, means that you can always get that sense of achievement. In the work sense, for example, I know we're in that time of year with a lot of the professional firms where it's promotion time, and you look on LinkedIn and you see everyone's partner here and director there, and they're all celebrating the promotion. And again, that's a very black and white yes or no turnout. And to use the podium approach for that, it's someone saying, rather than saying get promoted, victory, didn't get promoted, my life is over, I'm a terrible failure. You could, for example, say, top of the podium is promoted. Silver place is didn't get promoted, but built my network, learned a load of different things. It means I'm going to absolutely smash it next year. The bronze place might be didn't even get looked at for promotion, but I got to work on some really interesting work. But I got to spend more time with my family this year. Didn't get promoted, but I did get to reduce my body fat by 5%, whatever it is. It's about helping people to understand that there is that different way of winning. And the link to visualization is it helps us to prepare quite a lot. And it would be really, dare I say, shallow or empty of me just to sit here and say, visualize victory, visualize positivity. That's all you need. Because really, much as that would be a very comfortable way of doing things, it's about visualizing what happens if this goes wrong, and then what happens if my shoelace breaks, what happens if I get stung by a scorpion, what happens if I run out of water, all these different things. It helps us be prepared, and it helps us realize that victory, dare I say, in life is such a more complex thing rather than just saying, did I achieve my goal, yes or no? And by taking a much more holistic and blended and balanced approach, it really allows us to win no matter what happens to us. And I think that is one of the key lessons of life that I've learned, is that actually winning is down to our own perception, winning is down to our own mindset. We can have one of those days or weeks or years when it feels like our whole life as we know it has crumbled around us. But with the right mindset, we can always find that that chink of light, that victory. As a book by Viktor Frankl, talking about, and the name escapes me, but his experiences, his horrible experiences in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. But he still found a way to win mentally inside his mind. He was able to shut out all the horrible experiences around him, and his podium approach still allowed him to leave those concentration camps a winner, because he'd built such mental strength and such strong powers of visualization.
It was Man's Search for Meaning, I think.
That was the one, Man's Search for Meaning. You're
fantastic.
right.
Yeah, fantastic book. Just out of interest, Freddie, I'm sure a lot of listeners are on these long endurance events that you've endured. What when things are at their darkest, when you are struggling the most, what's the inner chatter like at that time in your mind? What drives you on? What keeps you in the fight?
It's a great question, and I think I'd say that the most one of the most extreme experiences was again when I was in the desert. The Marathon des Sables is the world's toughest foot race. There's a day of the race which is the toughest day of the toughest race, which is effectively a double marathon. So you start running when the sun comes up, and you stop running when you've done around 55 miles, which means you basically run all day through the desert, and usually you're running all night as well, non-stop. I never had run that distance in my life before, let alone through the desert. We were so remote at night that they said the nearest other human to us at that point was actually up in the International Space Station. That's how remote we were. And at that point, I was lost. I was running out of water. I was disorientated. I was hallucinating. I won't paint you too vivid a picture, but I'd be drinking what was left of my water, and it would be coming out a couple of minutes later out the other end, and it would be red with blood. And me not being a doctor, but I thought that's probably not right. It's not like I've got a local A&E anywhere near me, and so that was one of the moments when I questioned everything. I certainly questioned my decision making, my sanity, it's something they call the part X, the negative part of us. That's the part of us that whispers in your ear, what the hell were you thinking? Why did you think that you could do this thing? Why did you think that you could survive in your conquer zone? You're not cut out for this. You should be back there where everyone says you should be, where everyone says you belong. And then you go down this negative spiral of all this thinking. And what kept me going was really faith. And I don't mean faith in necessarily a deep religious sense, because I know that's probably a different podcast, but that faith that we can keep going. And this is called so many different things. Some people call it something around spirituality. A lot of people call it trusting the universe is quite a popular one, or potentially the law of attraction and things like that. But for me, it's about keeping faith that bad times don't last forever. And I've been in that position when everyone comes up to you and says, oh, this too will pass and bad times don't last forever. But you say, but I think you're wrong this time. I think this bad time really will last forever, and I can't ever imagine a time again when things will get better. And I say I had that moment in the desert. I had that moment when I was suffering with mental health issues in the UK. I had that moment when, in many different ways, when it really felt like my life was going badly wrong, with my dad's death and alcohol and so on. But it's about knowing that it has to get better, because as humans, that's what we do. And it's reminding ourselves, not thinking about the emotional negative chatter that's trying to derail us. How can we actually get a bit more scientific, remind ourselves that there is always a way forward, just by taking one step forward, just even by saying that I'm not going to I'm not going to make today my last. I'm not going to make the day that I throw in the towel. That can keep us going forwards. And it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be perfect. We talked about the podium method just now. In some cases, the gold place on the podium is just getting out of bed that day. And that's what, for me, my faith was doing to propel me forwards. I know a lot of people right now, they're feeling scared. They're worried about heating versus eating. Well, probably not in the UK, but we are over here in New Zealand in winter. They're worried about job security, inflation, money, elderly relatives, travel, war, politics, economy. There's so much out there that can get on top of us if we allow it. And that's what I speak to schools about. I speak to my business clients about. When life feels like it can't get any worse and it can't get darker and it feels like there's no way out, there is always a way forward if we believe that it can happen. And that's what got me through so many dark times. By having that faith, that's when we can just take a step forward and live to another day. And eventually we will see the light and we will get to that finish line, wherever it may be.
That's a great answer, Freddie. Thank you for that. And so going forward, so you've talked around the conquer zone and the comfort zone, and no doubt there's going to be plenty of conquering going forwards. What do you got planned for the months and years ahead, and how can people keep an eye on that? And
at the moment, I've got a couple of big goals as always, and they're about business, family, and fitness. So from a business point of view, I'm putting a lot of energy at the moment into my business Conquer that effectively helps companies to make more money and increase their profits. We know that a lot of companies at the moment are struggling in turbulent economic times. They're dealing with talent shortages. They're looking about how they can increase their revenues. What we do is we go into those businesses, we tap into overlooked assets like their customer databases. And I go to business owners. I take this off their hands. We go out there, we do our thing, and ultimately we make more revenues, and we just deliver them to the tables of the business owners. We say it's like every business, I believe, is built on an untapped gold mine. So what we do is we do the discovery, we find the gold, we dig out the gold, we deliver it to the business owner's desk, and then as a reward, we take some of the gold as payment. So it's a great model. It's been going really well, and we're building in New Zealand, Australia, and still doing some work in the UK as well. From a fitness point of view, I was laughing with my family. I haven't got too many crazy goals this year. Just Ironman races. So I'm training. Just Ironman. So I've got a goal to try and get into the 2024 Ironman World Championships, or the Half Ironman World Championships as well, because those ones are in New Zealand. So on my doorstep. And then third and finally, as well as keeping my family safe and happy, I've to keep me out of trouble, I am writing the second book, and that can be an exclusive for this podcast, because this is actually the first time I've talked about it in public. So the second book, I'm working on a couple of titles for it, but it's going to be focused around money and the crazy relationship we all have with money. We've touched on it slightly on this podcast as well, but why so many people chase money. I'm fascinated by the way that some people can seemingly create money out of nothing, and they've got that confidence that you could drop me in a library with nothing but a smartphone, and I can make money and be rich. I'm fascinated by the concept of whether, they say if you took all the money in the world and you distributed it equally to everyone, within 6 months, the rich will be rich again and the poor will be poor again. Why is that? Why, we're all humans on the concept of time. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. Why are some humans billionaires and other humans not able to get themselves out of a poverty trap? All those different concepts about money that I've been fascinated in the past, having come from a family where the daily dialogue was, we can't afford it. to then going and breaking the pattern myself and creating a successful business. So all those different hang-ups about money, when I think money is going to be forefront of a lot of people's minds over the next 18 months. So I'm going to go out there. I'm going to conquer money and help hopefully a lot of people out there to conquer their own money fears as well, and to be successful and find their own version of health, wealth and happiness by stepping into their own conquer zone.
That sounds fantastic. And firstly, good luck with the Ironmans. And it's great that you've prioritized family in there. And finally, on the book side of things, we look forward to reading your new book and getting you back on the show again after that, perhaps.
Yeah.
And,
to be honest, it was James. It was mainly I was thinking, how do I get back on this show for a third time? How do I get back? And I was like, I should probably write another book, and that's where it all came from. And when the family's there going, "Oh, Dad, you're going to be locked away for months writing a book," I was like, "Yeah, but guys, Mark and James, I need to do this," and everything else. So no, it's going to be great fun, and I'm a big fan of this show and everything that yourselves and the team do. So I'm always happy to come back anytime, any time zone. I'll be there.
So finally, Freddie, if people want to reach out to find out more about those things, what's the best place to reach out to you on?
Great question. Well, funny you should say that. I found a copy of the book lying around just here. And if people want to get there, I think the book has hit the bestseller stage in a couple of countries. But if people want to get hold of it, it's Starting at Zero by Freddie Bennett, available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. People can find out more about myself, my business and my fitness adventures on my website, which is freddiembennett.com. Sign up for my email list. They'll be the first to know all the crazy things that are happening, and I'll be spilling a few secrets along the way.
That's great. Well, we'll leave those links in the show note. Freddie, thank you for that.
You're a star.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving up your evening as it is over in New Zealand. We really appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you for sharing massive value to the listeners again. Thanks, Freddie, and take care, and we'll see you soon.
No problem. Pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
James, it was great to have Freddie back on the show. Loads of value there again. So what were the key bits you took out of that? Let's do our customary. Let's pick 3 big bits out that jumped out to us today.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, loads of points, as we always say. I think I would focus first up on the whole theme, the concept around the comfort zone versus conquer zone. What I particularly liked about that, because there's been lots said around comfort and conquer, but this seasonality, this recognition that you don't actually have to live in the conquer zone the entire time. And actually it's healthy to sort of spend your time between the two. Actually, just like training and things like that, when you can train really hard for a physical event, but actually the comfort time, the rest time is just as important. So you don't have to spend all your time there. It's a bit like seasonality that can be brought in, with our conquer zones. Well, you might be thinking that, wherever we are in life, we might be able to dedicate a bit more time to the conquer zone, and other times we might just need to spend a little bit more time in the comfort zone. But just being aware of that you don't have to be 100%, foot flat to the floor, on in one of the two camps. It's actually healthy to be in both, I think was one of the takeaways.
Yeah, that was a great point, wasn't it? I think it's easy to get caught up in the whole, let's just crack on with everything. And yep. Freddie, you said it's okay. You've got to give yourself some breathing space. Don't overtrain effectively. Yeah, great point. The point I loved, James, was around the don't burn your boats. Have a plan B. It's all good being gung-ho and, just take the big plunge. But you've got to have a backup plan. It's reckless to not do it. And he talked about recklessness as well later on in the podcast. I thought that was a big point for me. At least leave one boat to row away, and if things don't go quite to plan.
Yeah, an interesting concept, and you do get differing views on that. But there's a guy who's been there and done it, and that's his views. I would share that. But we're naturally cautious, aren't we, Mark? We are after all.
And I gave the example of cycling. I have been out on my bike, thought I'm not going to bother taking a spare inner tube, and I've punctured miles from home. And then you've got a choice. You have to walk home, you have to run home with your bike on your shoulder, or I had to phone up Glenda and say, Glenda, can you come pick me up?
That's the one you went for. Yeah, okay.
And all for the sake of not carrying an inner tube, So I've learned the hard lessons of it was reckless. Yeah, it was reckless. Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to take a third point out of that, well, I think I'd probably jump to the whole podium concept, and sort of having different levels of goals, all of which are success. And I can see some translation into the running world. When you're doing an event, it's often recommended that you have your A goal, your gold, which might be achieving a PB, but then recognition that it doesn't always go to plan, but then sort of reconciling that with a plan B and a plan C, and reconciling that with a goal B or a goal C. So goal B might be a respectable time. Goal C might be just getting round on the day, depending on the circumstances. That's an achievement in itself. So having these different levels of goals that actually, depending on how it goes on the day, that you can still get some satisfaction from the day that it's been a success. I think that sort of podium level can be applied to all sorts of things that we do. So that would be my third takeaway.
Yeah, brilliant, James. So just to recap on those 3 points that we took away: comfort versus conquer zone, just balance your time between the two, I think was the key point coming out there. The second point was don't burn all your boats. Keep a plan B in place just as a backup plan. And finally, as you were just saying there, James, the podium method, you can still succeed, but there's just different levels of success. So that brings us to the end of today's show. So that just leaves us to say, if you had any thoughts or comments or questions about today, then follow the link to the voice note section and leave us a voice note. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show, and I'm sure some of you will have some comments for Freddie as well. All of the links, the books, how to contact Freddie will be in the show notes, so follow the links, have a look at those. If you enjoyed today's show, then please rate and review us. If you can give us a 5-star rating on your chosen platform, it really does help other people find this show. And finally, a big shout out to our sponsors, Larkin Gowan. Without their support, this show would not be possible. So thank you, Larkin Gowan.
Many thanks to Freddie, an excellent guest as always. Looking forward to having him on for a third time, probably in a year's time with his new book. Mark, it's been good fun as always, isn't it?
And James, I look forward to seeing you next week for our next show. Until then.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
So this one's got we've got regret and remorse on there. So I'll give you a bland intro on that bit, I think, and let you sort of take that where you want to go. So
cool.
So another area in the book. Oh, go on, Freddie.
No, sorry. I thought you were saying that. I thought that was the intro, but
no.
When he said
it
was going to be a bland intro, Freddie, he didn't mean that bland.
Yeah, thanks all. Okay. Actually, you might as well keep that in. Freddie, do you want to just take it away?
No, you James. Today you had something prepared, so I'm really excited. I'm on the edge of my seat.
I've got nothing prepared. Freddie, tell me about